How far can you trace your ancestors? Well, if everyone in your family are Ashkenazi Jews like me, then the answer is probably not that far back. I have a family tree of over 4,200 people, which I feel is very comprehensive, at least on many of the lines, and I'm very proud of the work that I put in. But the truth is, unless you're lucky enough to find a rabbinical line on your tree, it's going to be very, very difficult, and in many cases impossible, to get back any further than the 1700s. Now, there are exceptions, of course, but this is just a general rule of thumb for Ashkenazi Jewish ancestry. So that being said, there's one guy in my direct line, my 7th great-grandfather, Israel Rozenblat. 7th great-grandfather. That's great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. He was born probably sometime around the 1730s or 1740s. Finding him was not a quick and easy process. It took breaking through multiple brick walls over a period of years. It ultimately coalesced around an 1816 census, which is one of the earliest I've ever used to trace my family. In addition, I was very lucky with regards to finding some DNA matches that helped verify my findings. I'm Yona Paley, and I believe genealogy is fun. And on today's episode, I'll be showing you the process, the long process that it took to get the name of my 7th great-grandfather, Israel Rozenblat, from the city of Kėdainiai in Lithuania. My great-grandfather was Irving Aronofsky. He was the oldest of 4 children and grew up in New York City. While I never met Irving, 4 of his children, including my grandfather, are still alive today. Now, Irving was the child of Abraham Aronofsky and Anna or Hannah Danse. Anna was one of 8 children from a family that hailed from the city of Jonava or Yanova, Lithuania. And on 1887 census, it lists her and her siblings along with their 2 parents, David Danse and Reza Kapoor. Luckily, there were tons and tons of records for Kapoor family members living in Lithuania. But in order to get to the point where I knew precisely where she came from and who her ancestors were, it took a bit of luck as well as the use of DNA. On one of her children's birth records, it lists her father as being Chaim Kapoor. And as I talked about on a video about tracing my direct maternal line several weeks ago, finding records for women can be really, really tough, especially the further back you go. And sadly, this is the case with regards to Reza Kapoor, because to this date, I've never found the name of her mother. Not a first name, a last name, nothing. But we do have the name of her father, and I wasn't really sure which Chaim Kapoor was her father. There seemed to be a few of them. So this is where DNA first comes in tremendous, tremendous use and helped me break through that brick wall. My great aunt had 2 DNA matches, strong ones, who were descended from Chaim Kapoor. But they were descended from different siblings. So one of them was his daughter Rachel, and one was a son, Yitzchak. And in order to figure out that they were definitely related to one another, I had to first use a technique called triangulation, which I'm going to talk very briefly to you about. It's a bit of an advanced technique, and at some point I want to do a video specifically detailing triangulation in the future. But for now, here are the basics. On a site that has a chromosome browser like MyHeritage, what you're able to do is you're able to take a match that you have and compare with your kit what segments of DNA you share along specific chromosomes. And what triangulation is you take your kit, a kit that you know how you're related to that person from, and then you test a third kit. And what you do is you run it through, let's say on MyHeritage, it has a software that lets you do this very easily, where you test it and you say, do these 3 DNA kits share any major segments with one another? And if they all share a significant segment, you can be fairly confident that the 3 kits share a common ancestor. And this is a really, really helpful tool for determining relationship with DNA, especially in endogamous populations like Ashkenazi Jews. With the first match, my aunt shared 4 segments of over 20 centimorgans each, which is a glaring thumbs up for this being a good quality match. Because what you're usually looking for is at least 2 segments of over 20 centimorgans each. So that was a really good indicator that told me that this match, who was the descendant of Rachel Kapoor, the daughter of Chaim, was a very close relationship. And then, when I triangulated this match, my aunt, and then the third one, it turns out that they shared a big 19 centimorgan chunk along chromosome number 9. So that was a bingo. These people were all definitely related and quite strongly to one another. Now, since these families were from the city of Kėdainiai in Lithuania, I was able to go through the records for the kapoors in Kėdainiai, which were a huge number of families, and I used my spreadsheet sorting trick to go through all the different families. I grouped them all up, and I managed to piece the family together and determined that Chaim Kapoor was the oldest son of Peretz Kapoor. And Peretz was a shoemaker, as was Chaim, and a lot of his children were shoemakers. So tracing this profession along with the last name really helped me to figure out a lot of the branches of the family that emigrated and moved to other places. But now let's get to the 1816 census, where it all goes down. Because on that census, Peretz, who was born sometime in the 1780s, was living with his wife, Dobra, and a bunch of other family members. And upon scanning the census, it seemed that Dobra, whose father was named Yitzchak, was related to the other people in the household, but I couldn't exactly figure out how. So what I did was I found the registration number listed for the family, which was number 10. And then I looked through the rest of the census and realized that there were other members of the family under the same registration number, but on a different page. I was able to piece together the 2 pieces of the census to determine that Dobra was the daughter of the head of the household, Yitzchak Rozenblat, son of Israel. Since Yitzchak's brother Matis was born around 1761, factoring in a generation of about 30 years, just to kind of ballpark it, that indicates that the father, Israel Rozenblat, was born sometime around the 1730s or 1740s. And when I realized this, that this ancestor was born almost 300 years ago, it just blew my mind. Because I didn't think that anything like this was possible in Ashkenazi Jewish ancestry. And that wraps up this video. How I found the most distant ancestor of mine, my 7th great-grandfather, Israel Rozenblat. Of course, I would ideally like to smash this record someday, just as you can smash that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. As always, I'm looking forward to bringing you more videos about famous Jews, as well as tips and tricks you can use in your own genealogy research. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.